APMP Micro Certification and what it has meant for NTT Data. The fun thing about micro certification, and especially executive summary micro certification, is that it is not exclusively for bid managers. It is for sales executives, for technical people, for solution architects, for executives. And that's what we're here to learn more about. So, Marika, let's start with you. This is a conversation between you and Larissa. This is not 20 questions. It's not a inquisition or anything like that. So tell us about what prompted this. Why did you go on this micro certification journey?
Izan, first of all, I'm so grateful I don't have to fill in a vendor questionnaire. It's just a conversation. Thank goodness for that, sparing me from that. Morning, everyone. So I guess it's not new to everyone. Everyone on the call can probably resonate. Our executive summaries were very boring, long, never-ending story. I want to put you to sleep, right? For those sellers on the call, I'm sorry, it's the truth from NTT Data. That's the reason why we're here and why we're going to brag about you today. But that was really the thing. It was very long, boring, never-ending story. Don't get to the point. Unclear, very generic, maybe a copy and paste. You know, those are the common pitfalls of exec summaries.
And it's not something unusual or limited to NTT Data. I'm sure many others from different organizations are saying the same or feel the same about their executive summary. So
yeah, Laura, and it was also filled with these, polite opening statements of thank you, we're so grateful, those kind of introductions. And I guess it was just really for me, an eye-opener, a mindset change. And I think what triggered it for me is reading the one after the other and, that feeling of you want to fall asleep. Now, if I felt like that, what would our customers and readers feel like? And the APMP conference, actually, it was, let me just get my date straight, 2023 at the APMP conference, yearly annual conference, the micro certifications were launched. And by the December, it was December and everybody thought I was crazy. Why would you do training in a December? But it just felt like a good time, This is where you catch up on admin. Let's catch up on some training and how to do better reading and preparation. And it was really to give the sellers some time over December. That was my madness thinking, to go and think about this and come back in January, fresh, new. This is how I'm going to do it. Eager to do it. It wasn't to do it in December, but just do the training that December so that they can get a feel and go and think and, change the mindset and behavior of how to tackle it when they come back in the new year.
Larissa, very interesting what Marika said, but when she first approached you, what really stood out about the challenges that they were trying to solve?
I think it's really just around, as we sort of started to unpack it. I mean, first and foremost, we got some samples, obviously under an NDA. We got some samples to take a look at the executive summary so we could kind of see from a benchmarking perspective where they stood and where the challenges were. And again, I don't believe the challenges stood out more than, what we see is where, just like standard things, like not really being customer centric, talking just about themselves more than talking about the customer. Some of it felt very sort of generic, inconsistent messaging across the board. So, and again, if you took a look at the sort of executive summaries and then the technical documents, there was sort of a disconnect in terms of the documents. So I think the challenge was really whether, the bid team had been upskilled with APMP certification and understanding APMP best practices. But the real gap was getting the sales team on board. And then I think we figured out, which Marika figured out, and I think we really closed a big gap there, is also bringing in the technical team. So the stakeholders involved in the entire process start communicating from one golden thread around their messaging. So you're getting one voice, one consistent messaging in the executive summaries, but obviously that's going to also go into the proposals.
And Laura, you're 100% spot on. It was not clearly, and we heard it from the customers as well. You don't really understand what the requirements were, although we did, but we didn't clearly articulate it. We didn't highlight our unique features or value proposition to the client. And then the big question for the clients, we never answered, what's in it for me? Why should I choose you? And then backing that up with evidence, it's, we know these things, but it's just really making sure that you keep it top of mind when you write it, because maybe we were taught in a traditional way of writing. So, you kind of follow that. So it was really a mindset shift. And talking about the solution architects, it was very interesting. I never thought a solutions person would be interested in an exec summary. Why? They're not talking to the client. But as they were writing, they said, even when you write a solution, you should use those principles of what are the issues? What am I trying to solve? What are the benefits of those solutions? It made sense, but just never thought about it that way. And it makes a big difference to have that golden thread throughout your proposal responses.
Larissa, you talked about communication and the golden thread. I think it was George Bernard Shaw that said the biggest problem with communication is the assumption that it's taken place. And I've noticed that as well, where writers, whether they are technical writers, sales writers, bid writers, what you think you have written on paper and what you've actually written is not always the same. And that's where you mentioned that disconnect. Now, the one thing that I want to ask, and this is a question I want to ask both to Marika and to Larissa, is this disconnect communication problem unique to NTT Data? Are you the only ones who don't know how to do this? So Larissa, I want to hear your answer first, and then I want to hear Marika.
Absolutely not. I think, and I mean, Izan, I think we see it here all the time, as a proposer consultancy. I think one of the biggest challenges businesses face today is that they tend to look at marketing, their business development, sales stuff, their proposals, tenders, and pitches, all of these almost separate projects or items. The reality is that you cannot separate the business development life cycle. You cannot make proposals and tenders a separate part of it. Your sales and marketing pitch is a separate part of it. It actually all has to work together. And this is one of the biggest challenges businesses face today, is having consistency in the collateral that is going out to their customers. Salesperson saying one thing, but the marketing saying another, their proposal saying another, the technical team are saying another. This is one of the biggest challenges businesses face that they need to solve, because, as we say, consistency breeds trust. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. And part of that is having that consistency of messaging, because we cannot always be in front of people. And that's something we've learned very quickly through COVID. So no, this is not just an NTT Data. If anything, I think NTT Data has shown great initiative around understanding this as a challenge, and have taken on this initiative to really improve and invest in their skills within their sales team. So I really applaud NTT Data, because they're really taking their approach to the next level.
Thanks. Marika, what do you think? It's not just you guys?
No, I don't think it's unique. I think the first thing for me was, it was almost like opening a can of worms, right? We thought this is the problem, but then we saw the golden thread, all of it. It is a misperception. To Laura's point as well, that what is an executive summary? It's the word. Executive summary is something that you just quickly put in quickly put in front of the proposal, submit to the client. That is the misperception. That's where it started. Never mind the writing. And as we unpacked it, it is looking at the business development life cycle, from identifying opportunities, people that go out hunting for opportunities. How do you engage a client? There are so many different principles, methodologies, ways to do things. And I think to keep it simple, we use the executive summary certification principle as the key one that can go and spread across multiple functional areas. And even, as I mentioned, identification. When you have conversations with clients, some of the key things that people have told us, some of the feedback was they're actually thinking differently when they go and meet with a client. They use the same principles of executive summary writing, having conversations, even meeting somebody. It's a mindset shift, right? When you're writing proposals, marketing, engaging. When you do presentations, you even do your presentations as well. You're thinking about grabbing that attention. As a famous author once said, what was it? Stand out from the competition and set the scene to an unforgettable movie with grabbing the opening scene, Izan. That really stood out for me. If everyone don't know what I'm talking about, Izan wrote this book about, what was it called? A Guide to a Writing Blockbuster Executive Summary. And it's really about grabbing attention like a movie, like a trailer. You need to grab that attention in the beginning. But what we do is we just start writing. You don't plan, you don't think, you don't put yourself in the client's shoes thinking, what is it that they want to hear? If I have to sit with you and we're going to a psychologist, I'm the psychologist, you're coming to see me, and I just start giving you solutions of how you're going to solve it. You're going to think, oh, hell no, I'm not coming back to this crazy woman. I wasn't even paying attention, making you feel comfortable, trusting, what is your problem, really listening, and then let's unpack what we can do and come back and try this XYZ, because this is what will help you, Izan or Larissa. It's the same. It's not just in proposals. In any profession, in anything you do, you can apply these principles. So definitely not unique, and it's not just here, it's everywhere. And I really want to challenge the people on the call, if you're still not convinced, do it in your own personal life when you have conversations, when you're trying to persuade your children to do something. I promise you, it's real. I've tried it. And just by thinking differently and listening, understanding, because you so quickly go, have you done your homework? Have you done this? Oh, mom's nagging again. But really understand why, what are their challenges? Why are they struggling to do the homework? But it's really about listening, understanding, and then applying. And persuasion is what's in it for you if you have to do it, right? Sales incentives, all of those things. Why do you need to do this? So this is really, for me, what the executive summary opened up. A broader world of benefits for applying these principles.
Laura, there's a number of APMP Micro Certifications. There's in writing, pricing, design, and then, of course, the one that NTT Data embarked on, executive summaries. Now, listening to Marika, it sounds like if you don't know where to start, this is a good place to start with executive summaries, because it has multiple, I would say, intended and unintended consequences, benefits that, you probably didn't anticipate. Talk to us a bit about those, Larissa.
Okay, so firstly, the executive summary masterclass. So first of all, what we've done differently in terms of what we are doing slightly differently to the standard APMP Micro Certification process is that we have paired the nFold masterclass. So we have one day where we do a deep dive practical masterclass, which goes into exactly the who's, the what's, the how's, or the when's of each of the topics. But we also have a very practical application. So what Marika's team went through is, at the end of the day, they all ended up putting together an executive summary, and they were given an hour, maybe an hour and a half if they were lucky, to put it together, to show how quickly you can start to apply the information. And I think first of all, that's key because the masterclass gives that practicality and that deep dive. Then, and it brings a lot of the APMP best practices in. And then we've got the APMP masterclass, which is preparing them, micro certification, which is preparing them for the theory or the remaining theory for the exam and then writing the exam. So I think first and foremost to understand that these are very practical classes. But the nice advantage is you end up with this fantastically global certification, right? So who doesn't want to add an extra global certification to their to their professional resume? Secondly, so the executive summaries for me is a great place to start because really you cannot talk about, if you're talking about the key messages, you're starting with the key 3 strategies, which is really around talking about understanding what do you need to know about the customer, the competition, and your own capabilities and costs. Yeah. And so that gives you a really good fundamental to start around understanding what information should you be getting pre-sales, pre-tender, pre-proposal stage. And then how do you start to incorporate or speak to your bid and proposal teams and technical teams to link and plan how you're going to win your entire response. So it touches quite heavily on some of the strategies. So it gives you a little bit of writing tips that, and a lot of what you do in executive summaries, you can apply to the rest of your proposals. So that's why it's a really nice place to start, particularly for sales and the technical teams and your bid teams. Let's, like we said, this is not just for bid teams, but the bid teams, sales teams, and technical teams should communicate the same language. The next micro certification that we have is on graphics. And it is really about, again, understanding how to come up with a very good visual strategy for your response. So once you've done things like the planning and stuff that you've done in your executive summaries, how can you start to visually create impact? Because long gone are the days where proposals look like school projects. They are high quality marketing materials. And the reality is, as we said, people are bombarded with so much information. What is going to make you stand out from the competition? And we know that we apply visuals 60,000 times faster. Visuals communicate quicker to us. And so we've got to communicate in ways that deal with the different types of personalities, right? Some people communicate with words, others with graphs, others with visuals. So it's about bringing your whole story effectively together. The next one we have is your price to win, which is really about understanding, and this is great because now we are starting to bring in the pricing teams, the executives who start to think about pricing strategies, the sales teams as well when they're thinking about costing, because at the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're not leaving any money on the table. We are benchmarking our prices against our competition, but also we don't want to be in a situation, and this is where a lot of companies get it wrong, we don't want to be in a situation where we are playing just a pricing game. And if you are just filling in a pricing sheet and you are setting no context and you are not linking value or return on investment or payback messages to your price, if you are not setting traps for your competition, then you are only playing a pricing game. And a pricing game is not sustainable and it's not lucrative. And if you're getting lots of situations where you're losing just on price and you don't know what on price you're actually losing, then you are definitely missing a beat. So that's what that micro certification covers. And then lastly, we've got the bid and proposal writing course, which is really a deep dive in terms of writing. I would say that this one is quite comprehensive because if you want to do effective proposal writing, you've got to understand the strategy. You've got to understand everything that takes you to there, how to analyze the tender documents or the customer briefs and communicate that into key messaging. So that's really around deep diving, and this is really great for your subject matter experts or anybody that's contributing to the writing of your proposals and your tenders. And let's be honest, the reality is, as much as all organizations want to have graphic designers and editors, proposal managers, bid administrators, solution architects, technical writers, salespeople, etc. Companies are trying to do more with less. You know, AI and all of these other things have come in. So the reality is that we need to upskill the teams that are doing it, because often it's the sales team that are writing the executive summaries, even though historically they haven't been the writers. Technical teams are having to write our proposal solutions, even though they haven't been the writers. So it's really about now upskilling your entire business development life cycle with the right skills sets, so that they're empowered to really put compliant, persuasive documents together that touch the right buttons, that don't give away all your IP, just enough to answer the customer's questions, but that it enables your organizations to be positioned to win more. And that's really what these courses are about.
Wow. I still think the executive summaries one is a good place to start. It does seem like
Absolutely.
a big mouthful. Marika, now it's been several months after the team. I know there's been a few iterations of training. It wasn't just one group once off. So, but time has passed. What is different? What have you noticed that are different in the team's writing, in the responses, in the results?
So I just want to go back quickly to Larissa mentioned the training in person practicality. I think some of them had 30 minutes to put an executive summary together, and they were looking at us, are you crazy? There's no ways we can do this. And at the end of the day, to see how they were so actually proud of themselves to say, hey, I did it. It was possible, and how quickly they could do it just by changing a few things. And that really motivated. It's not just, yeah, you learn everything, go and apply it. They learned it in that session, in those sessions, training sessions, and they could apply it. Some of those executive summaries was so good, it just needed some visuals, maybe, formatting, or it was great already. A huge improvement. That was just in the session. So now, a couple of months later, to date, I just need to remember, we have 54 people have obtained the certification in the organization between sales and solutions. And I think we had 4 sessions, Laura. Was it 4? 3, 4 sessions.
Yeah.
Now, what I've seen in the changes, we are winning bigger opportunities. And that's really meaning that the proposal responses are of higher quality. We're having constructive conversations. It's standing out. We are keeping the customer top of mind. It's clear. Customers are saying that. They see that you really understand, because when you write that executive summary and proposal and you take it to presentation, those results, that's the best. It's getting to the next phase, the next hurdle. And then the last one is actually bringing it home, because, that's ultimately how you've persuaded them, bringing those big ones. What do we call them? The big buffaloes, the big ones, bringing them home. And it's just by being more persuasive, quality, keeping customer top of mind. And the most important thing, other than the winning the business, is the confidence in the people, how they communicate. I think for me personally, that is the biggest win, because changing a behavior and a mindset, as you know, is one of the most difficult things to do. And that for me was the biggest win, the mindset change and the confidence that they now have, how quickly, how easy it is to actually do it if you just apply the right principles.
And I must say, Marika, I mean, looking at looking at the very high level sort of statistics, it was surprising to see what a big change there was from 2023 to 2024 on not necessarily the volume of wins, but the value of wins, which ultimately is probably more important if you think about it, because it's not just about winning more, it's about winning more value. And I mean, it was well over, I think we said 200 and something %, the value of what your teams are winning now, which means that you're going for more strategic tenders. I'm sure it wasn't just executive summaries, because I know that your bid team worked very hard in terms of delivering those. And what was interesting is, even though that didn't happen, you know, from a percentage wise, if you look at the volume of your things, you did lose less as well in terms of the value.
Yes.
So that was very interesting in terms of standing out. So, you know, I think that is an extremely exciting in such a small space of time.
So
100%.
what I'm wondering about is, you mentioned 3 or 4 sessions, 52, 54 people, etc. How are you reinforcing or reminding these principles? I mean, very often you learn something, but if it's not reinforced, and I don't mean forcefully, but reinforced, you sort of lose or forget what you learned. So what's your approach to reinforce it?
100% is on. It's about execution. I stand with a big stick and say, you don't do it, I don't respond. No joke. There are a couple of things. So the one thing is, we try and create templates, so it's easier, and it almost gives you a guide to remind you those are the principles, and then per client, and then it's easier for those individuals to change, and everybody understands kind of the flow and a reminder of the layout or the framework, if you want to call it that. So that's the first thing that helps. And everyone, we have brought this into our qualification process. So at qualification process, I don't know, is Nigel on the call? I don't know if Nigel, he would love this. At 2 o'clock in the morning, we used to sit and apply the ISB principle. Does anyone know what the ISB principle stands for? We call it, it's simply bloody possible. It's actually the issues, the solutions, the benefits, and the proof. We bring that into our qualification process. And as a very start, you are planning and thinking of that executive summary or principles, whether you call it issues, challenges, goals, you know, it all falls in the same bucket. And then what is the features that we want to present back to the client that could solve those problems, and what are the benefits that the clients can realize? Now, if you start this the earliest, even when you engage with clients before proposal, we ask those questions. When you go meet with the client, those are the things that you want to bring home. So already starting at the beginning with that mindset, and then follow through. So by the time you get to proposal, you already have those key, let's call it bullet points or planning in mind. So that's really where we have started to reinforce or keep it top of mind, and carry it throughout the presentation. When we do a win-loss review, we ask the same thing. We say, did we understand the issues? Was it clearly articulating the benefits, the value back to the client? Did we evidence correctly? You know, we keep that through the entire, I want to say, bid process or business development life cycle, from identification, proposal, planning, review, and back again to the start. So keeping that principle of it's simply bloody possible.
So Larissa, what advice do you have, or other tips or tricks to keep it top of mind?
So, I mean, I think this is a really good point that you've brought up, Azan, is I think, you know, training is not going to solve everything. Training is the first step to building awareness. If in any sort of programs, any kind of thing you do, awareness is the first thing that you need to do. It's awareness, and it's building the skills. And once you've built the skills, it's about keeping it alive. So I think that is really, really important. So there's a few things that we recommend that once you've done training, that you reinforce and re-enable it is, and I think you've mentioned a few there, Mareka, is, it's building it into the process, sending regular recommendations, anyone who's attended the training, once they've done their first executive summary, give them feedback based on that, so that you are building that alive. It's building those sort of regular interventions to say, okay, you've done training, now we want to see how you've implemented it. It's about maybe actually going, hi, I see you haven't applied these principles. Please go back and do it before we help you. So I like that approach. It's not about not wanting to help from a bid office team, but it's really about enforcing a winning culture, because that's really what it's about. And winning is a team sport. It's not just one person, and I know it sometimes feels like that, but it's not. It's about combining everybody's skills to keep it alive. Just regular interventions, having every now and again, I don't know, like a checkpoints in meeting, maybe having like a roadshow just to go and remind them, these are the things we learned in the executive summary, sending tips out to the teams to say, hey guys, remember, here's stuff that we learned about executive summaries, or here's a really interesting article. Those are great ways to keep those kinds of initiatives alive, because at the end of the day, it's also about that continuous improvement, right? So, Marika, we can say, everyone comes here to the training, it's the companies are only going to ultimately get what they put in and what they put out, and how good and how much time they're investing in almost those pre-activities and those activities throughout the process to really make it work.
I guess it's like saying I had a bath 3 weeks ago, so why do I need to bath again? You can't just train once and then think it's over and done with. There has to be reinforcement, whether it's checklists, little huddles, templates, process. But training is not a magic wand. It's not going to instantly fix everything. You need to apply what you have learned.
And Izan, I think the important thing is that it shouldn't be, it's like going on a diet, right? Eating, healthy eating. Don't use the word diet. You need to change your eating plan. This needs to be part of your culture. It needs to be part of who you are. It shouldn't be, oh, I have to do it. Or it just should become the way you think. And a little competition has never hurt anyone, right? So a little competition, show off, because I think, Laura, one of the sales client managers, when they wrote the exam, scored 100%. And everyone was going, oh my gosh, he scored 100. How can I know? Competitive personalities, right? I also have to go and I also have to do this. So it's creating that little bit of a, enthusiasm and hype and competition among sales. I mean, especially. So those kind of things also helps.
And I have to say, it was very funny. I mean, talking about that, Azan, it was really funny because we actually had people, Marika actually had people going, oh, why wasn't I included in the training? I also want to get into the training. So
FOMO.
It created a lot of FOMO in the organization, which I think was actually extremely exciting. But I also think it speaks to the amazing culture that NTT Data has, right? As much as I'd love to take credit for that, that definitely has a lot to do with the culture. And it is about building a winning culture. It is about understanding that investing in skills, the impact that can have if you build that kind of hunger and passion in people. And passion and putting in that right sort of information really does wonders for your win rate, or in this case, the value of bids that you're winning.
Marika, was there I'm thinking about maybe guys on the call want to know a little bit more meaty detail. Was there a specific bid or situation where you could see it click, where you saw the lights going on in people's eyes and you knew that was the aha moment? Anything that stands out?
I think, Izan, it wasn't a specific, I'm trying to think if it was specific, but for me, it was that training session when they realized they could actually do this in 30 minutes. That was the aha moment for me, when they realized how easy it is and where they were convinced that they can do it. It was really in those sessions. And we had, what did I mention, 4 sessions. And in each session, it was the same. It was that, oh my gosh, I don't know, can I do this? Why are you asking me to do this? And then if I go on this training, what do I have to do? Write an exam? Not sure. Or the practicality. Some of them even used those templates for the next one. Almost that was their cheat sheet, right? So when they went back for the next proposals. So when we had a new opportunity and that individual, you've been on the training, right? So no pressure. You need to come here with a proper exec summary plan. And they did. So I won't say necessarily it was on a specific opportunity, as those who have been on the training brought it to the opportunities, but it was in that moment when they were convinced, and it was, you could see their eyes sparkle and think, I've been doing this all wrong. What was I thinking? Or it's actually not that difficult, because it is that perception of, oh my gosh, you write the executive summary at the end. The solution team has to write the solution before I write the exec summary, or I need the pricing before I write it's that misperception, right? And then secondly, it was, oh, I don't have a week. It's timing. I don't have the time to do this. Guys, let's do it. Let's try it. You got 30 minutes, try it. And then I did. Actually, they were petrified for me and Laura of our feedback. I must admit, they thought we were going to be scrutinizing them, but we didn't, because there was so many different things, and that was the beauty of it. Some had good intros, some had good endings, some had good visuals, some had, good data points, evidence. There wasn't one bad one, Laura. There wasn't one terrible one. There wasn't one fantastic, if you consider the time they had and resources available. And they all used in that session, not a fictitious opportunity. They chose one of them opportunities that they had to work on. So it added value and benefit to a real opportunity. And I think that was really, for me, in summary, the aha moment, when they believed they could do it, it's possible, and they were convinced.
It sounds like it really changed how the teams collaborated, not just in the training, but post as well, because it's not you mentioned salespeople, technical people, solution architects, and bid people. So maybe that sounds, to me, it sounds like that was one of the aha moments.
There's less arguing. Let me say that. There's less arguing.
What was very interesting for me, and just to speak to your point first, everyone did a draft. We expect them to have a draft, and that draft is better than most drafts that we see in the bid office 9 times out of 10. That they actually did in a short space of time. The purpose is to show them that the planning and thinking can happen. Of course, you will need further editing and design to finesse it and to finalize it. But those were really good drafts, and by far chalk and cheese from what we were seeing from the previous examples. So, and also the nice thing is, when everyone shares their examples, that's where they learn from each other, right? And also it teaches them to collaborate, to say, actually, it's a lot harder on my own, but if we have a quick session with a few people, it will work. The other interesting thing for me was when we trained the technical teams were like, wow, we're not even aware that this happens. We don't even have this information. So they're just going and writing a solution without actually understanding how we're going to win it, what actually matters to the client. Now they are able to go, oh, we need to ask the salespeople these questions to do that. And it was very interesting to see the versions of executive summaries the technical people came up with versus the sales team. And Marek and I were like, wow, I think we found the missing link. Because actually, if you take what the technical teams did and what the sales team did, and you put that together, boom, there's the magic.
And it was really that collaboration that you mentioned, because it's a salesperson's job or role, responsibility to write it. And they're going, when do you want me to do this? And they can't do it on their own. So it really shows you cannot do this on your own. You need to collaborate with your solutions team, vice versa, bid office. And it was really, I think, the collaboration of it that was the beauty, to show that you don't have to do this alone either. You are a team that needs to bring this together, from solution exec, some proposal, because the salespeople will go, okay, when you write the solution, what are those benefits that you come? Oh, and now I can help me write my exec summary. That's just talk to each other, communicate, talk, collaborate.
Love it.
winning
Love it,
winning
love it, love
recipe.
it. So what's next? Marika, for you and the NTT Data
April,
team,
next
what's
training.
next?
No, so I think it is, as I mentioned, the awareness was the key thing, the FOMO, missing out. And, people come and go. So there was this big awareness that we created in saying to all the sales managers, we started there, because who do you choose, right? So we started from the top, from the sales organization, then we went to each division, and then from there we went to the technical. And we need to start that again now. From the top, start. New people have come, some have left. We need to start again, and it's a reiterative process. We keep on continuing. There's 2 or 3 opportunities we want to now. That's exec summary. We want to now also do the next micro certifications, price to win, because I believe if you then have different people on the organization do that, bringing that together with the exec summary knowledge that they've learned, I mean, I'm excited. I can't wait for what we can see, because next is the value. For me, if I have to suggest next one, I would say it's the price to win, because now because we hear often pricing, we lose because of price. It's now articulating the value, what the customer will pay for. So I think for me, that would be the next journey after exec summary, to put them together to make it from good to great.
Okay. Larissa, from your point of view, for those who don't know where to start, what would you say is the next step for others?
I guess, the question would be, who is the audience? Who do they want to upskill? If we're talking to, graphic designers, or we're talking to bid teams who are now starting to upskill themselves on graphic design, then graphics would be, a good place to start. If we're talking around the, writing, I would first say start with the executive summaries, even with your technical teams, before going into the proposal and bid writing, which is in a lot more in depth. So I'd say that would still be the order I would recommend. But the writing one is also, you could just go straight into the writing one. For those that are really more involved in terms of the pricing, then definitely the pricing. So I'd say executive summaries is your first all-rounder, particularly for your sales teams and technical teams, because it's just a great sort of overview. And then I agree with you, Marika. I think the next step for that particular audience definitely is price to win. And here you can maybe bring in your pricing. But Azana, if you're speaking to people that are just doing pricing, or the sort of senior managers or entrepreneurs or business owners, or the CFOs or CEOs, then competitive price to win, would be a nice one to fit. Although I found that the executive summaries also work very well with the executive teams. We've done a few executive sessions with executive and sales teams as well.
Thank you. I want to quickly jump to a question that I've seen here in the chat, where it's about if we need training for a company, because it looks like on the website that the training is structured for individuals. And I want to mention here that I think the best output is when you do it in your business, when you do it for your company. There's pros and cons to public training versus in-house training. In-house is obviously confidential. Whatever you share there, there's the same culture, there's the same audience, there's the same clients. So all of these sorts of training interventions, let's just call it training, those things are geared towards what the need is, if it's for an individual versus whether it's for a company. So Ilse will be in touch and talk about that. But I want to just let everybody know that we often do training for organizations, and then it starts a little bit different because needs are different. The certification is global. The certification will always be the certification. That does not change. It's how it's approached and applied that we adapt, because that's the same as with your executive summary. You can't just have one approach. Sorry, Laura, and then Marika. Sorry about that.
Sure. So just to add to that, on our website, we only advertise the public classes. And that is because often we find bid teams only have 2 or 3 people, or, so if your company is going to be training less than 10 people, we typically will do an in-house class for 10 or more people. That's really where we will do it at your company, or if you want us to do it on your venue. And then we'll ask you what is it that you want to achieve, so that we can recommend what is the best fit for your organization and what it is that you want to achieve for the specific audience that you are going to train. So we do, if you are interested, if you send something to info@nfold.com, and Azan can put that into the chat, Ilse will be in touch and she can share our prospectus with you. What we will then schedule that based on your availability and our availability. So that's why it's not scheduled on the website. But we understand when it's only 1 or 2 or a few people that need to train, that is advertised so that you can join existing classes, and it's a little bit more affordable than having a dedicated class. We can do smaller classes, but obviously it becomes for me, it becomes a good cost-effective thing if you've got 10 or more in a class. Obviously, we do limit the classes to a reasonable size as well, so to ensure that you get maximum value. And yeah, that's really it. I see there's another question saying, I'm in Bedford View and you want to attend a certification program. Brilliant, Maudi. You're more than welcome to attend a certification program. Again, if you send any information to info@nfold.com, then we can let you know which courses are available and fit you into that. I think like Azan said, there's pros and cons, Azan, on in-house and things. In-house, it means that it is really centered around your teams and building that communication like we did with Marika's teams. And we're really working on then real bids and opportunities. When we're doing a public class, the other value is you're getting outside sort of perspectives, and it's sort of nice to know that you're not alone in terms of learning these things, but then you're not working on the overall life cycle with your teams. But I think there's value in either way.
Marika.
Yeah, Laura, I just wanted to add to that, there's 2 ways to look at it, and I think it's crazy how your mind just changes. I'm thinking about the executive summary principles. First, you engage, you understand what do you want, what are your needs, how are we going to tailor it for you, and your brain just starts thinking that way all the time. So the first thing for me is when you are a smaller organization, or when you are 1 or 2 people in the bid space or the business development space, and you feel you don't have the, let me say, the confidence yet to get the buy-in and promote it, go on the course and then go and show people what you have achieved and how you apply it within your business, and then get them to go onto it and then go for the broader ones. You don't have to start with a big bang. And then if you're a bigger organization, I think it's better to get your people, individual stakeholders that you are dealing with, get the buy-in from the business and start there, because then it's a collaborative, and the things that you learn together. You can reference back to it, and it's real opportunities. So there are definitely pros to both sides of this coin.
Thank you. There's 1 or 2 comments in the chat, guys. We want to start wrapping up. I think this has been a great conversation, which is exactly what we wanted. It needed to be a conversation. If we were all a little bit closer, we would have sat around a table with lots of good coffee. So if you have any other questions, please pop them in the chat. I am sharing the contact details, so take a screenshot, get in touch. And any other questions? I see there's a question about price. Ilse will get in touch with you and talk to you about that, because again, it depends on whether it's public or private. And we really appreciate your time, your attendance. Any last word from you, Laura, and then from Marika?
I just think it's exciting to be able to upskill yourself. I think it's good for you and for your companies. Ultimately, it's about helping you win more and helping your organizations win more. And I think the exciting thing is, you know, how Mareka's team have also, how it's uplifted the bid function in the overall organization and how it's working better with communication. So I think that is really key, is the more people in your organization you can upskill, the better the results are going to be.
Thank you. Mareka.
I just want to say, Izan, I think the key thing is it's time for change. Do it, get it done. It's bloody possible, and go and write those trailers for your movies.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mareka, because thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. I wish you a fantastic Wednesday. Oh, Laura, one more question or comment?
Sorry, Azan, before you go away, I don't know if there's a link that you can put on your site for your book, but Azan wrote a wonderful book on executive summaries. There, Mareka's showing it, you can see it, it's sort of flashing there. So if anybody is looking for it, I think you've got it on Amazon, if anyone is looking for it.
Correct.
So, you know, there's also some nice tips and tricks in there as well. And please also follow our LinkedIn, follow nFold on LinkedIn, follow nFold on Facebook and YouTube, and look at our website. We put in tons of resources and cheat sheets for you. So we really, really like to, and I think we're very generous in giving tips and tricks to help you win more, because we are all about inspiring your success.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Take care. Win more.